When you saw Conor go down, what was your honest reaction to that?
Honestly, I feel bad, but I know Max gonna beat him, but not like fast like this, in the first minute. I want to see how he fight after the five years, and honestly, feel bad when it's happened.
5 years, 69 seconds, and a single knee that buckled before the fight even had a chance to breathe. That's the story the world thought it was going to watch unfold in slow motion. A redemption arc, a comeback 5 years in the making. Instead, it ended almost before it began. And somewhere, thousands of miles away, the last man anyone expected to feel sympathy for Conor McGregor sat down for an interview and said something that stopped people cold. Let's go back to the moment itself. The build-up to UFC 329 had been relentless. Every promo, every press conference, every countdown video hammered the same question into the minds of fans. Could Conor McGregor, the most polarizing figure the sport has ever produced, actually come back? Not talk about coming back. Not tease it on social media for the 100th time. Actually step into the octagon again, after half a decade away, and prove he still belonged there. The man standing across from him wasn't some tune-up opponent either. It was Max Holloway, a former champion, a warrior with one of the deepest gas tanks in the sport's history, a man who had already given McGregor problems in the past. This wasn't a comeback fight. This was a trial by fire. And for 69 seconds, the world held its breath. McGregor threw his first kick. It should have been nothing, just a feeling-out strike. The kind fighters throw a dozen times a fight without a second thought. But something went wrong. His leg didn't come back down the way it was supposed to. The plant foot buckled. In an instant, 5 years of anticipation, of training camps, of promises made to fans and to himself, collapsed into a single, agonizing image. A fighter unable to put weight on his own leg, unable to continue, watching his fight, get taken away from him by his own body before his opponent could lay a glove on him. The referee waved it off. No dramatic finish. No highlight reel knockout. Just silence, confusion, and a locker room somewhere behind the scenes where a legend had to process what had just happened to him in real time. Now, here's where the story should have ended, right? A brutal footnote. A cautionary tale about the ruthlessness of time and the risks of chasing ghosts. But instead, something happened that nobody saw coming. And to understand why it matters, you have to understand the history first. Rewind to 2018. Conor McGregor is standing across the cage from Khabib Nurmagomedov, the undefeated wrecking ball out of Dagestan, a fighter built by a training camp that treated mixed martial arts less like a sport and more like a way of life. The fight itself was brutal, Khabib dragging McGregor into deep water in the fourth round and forcing a submission. But it wasn't the finish anyone remembers. It was what came after. Khabib leapt over the cage. His teammates flooded in from the crowd. Chaos erupted. Punches were thrown outside the octagon. And in the middle of that storm, throwing himself into the brawl alongside his mentor, was a young lightweight named Islam Makhachev. That night wasn't just a footnote in McGregor's career. It was the origin story of a rivalry, a bad blood connection between McGregor and an entire camp that treated loyalty like a blood oath. Makhachev wasn't a bystander in that history. He was in it, fists and all. So when word came out that Makhachev, now the reigning UFC welterweight champion, now the heir to Khabib's throne, now one of the most feared fighters on the planet, had spoken publicly about McGregor's gut-wrenching loss, people expected anything but sympathy. Maybe a shrug. Maybe a quiet dig. Maybe silence, because why would the protege of the man McGregor once tried to provoke waste a single word on him? Instead, Makhachev looked into the camera and said something that cut through all the old animosity like a blade. He admitted he expected Holloway to win. Everyone did, but not like this. Not in the opening seconds, before McGregor even had the chance to show whether 5 years away had changed him at all. Makhachev said plainly that he felt bad for him, that he wanted to see how McGregor fought after all this time, genuinely wanted to see it, the way fans around the world wanted to see it, and instead got nothing. No answer, no story, just an injury and a silence where a fight should have been. Think about the weight of that for a second. This is a man who once jumped into a cage brawl against McGregor's side of history. A man trained by, mentored by, forged by Khabib Nurmagomedov himself. And yet here he is, years later, sitting at the top of a sport, showing something that looked almost like compassion for the very rival his camp once tried to humble. It's not forgiveness, exactly. It's something rawer than that. The recognition, fighter to fighter, that some losses aren't about skill or size or preparation. Some losses are just cruel. And even a champion who has every reason to hold a grudge can look at a moment like that and see, not an enemy, but a warrior who got robbed of his story by his own body. But this isn't just a story about the past catching up with the present, because while McGregor now faces an uncertain future, one fight left on his contract, a promise to return next summer, a body that just reminded the world exactly how unforgiving time can be, Makhachev isn't slowing down to reflect on any of it for long. He has his own storm coming. On August 15th, in Philadelphia, he steps into the octagon to defend his welterweight title against a hungry, dangerous countryman of McGregor's own, Garry, an Irish fighter with everything to gain and a title shot to prove he belongs among the sport's elite. So here's where the story truly leaves us. One legend, injured, humbled, staring down the final chapter of a career defined by chaos and charisma, forced to ask himself if his body will ever again match his ambition. And one dominant champion, showing an unexpected flash of humanity toward an old rival, now walking straight into his next war, against a fighter carrying the flag of the very country McGregor made famous around the world. Two storylines, one history soaked in bad blood, and a sport that never, ever stays still long enough to let anyone catch their breath. McGregor's comeback may be over for now, but if this sport has taught us anything, it's that the next chapter is always closer than you think. And when Makhachev walks out under those Philadelphia lights on August 15th, the echoes of everything that came before him, Khabib, McGregor, that infamous night in 2018, will be walking out right there with him.